episode furthers the development of Steven's character, as the Crystal Gems bring him along on one of their missions. While excited to be part of the team, he meanders his way through everything, and isn't quite as prepared as he thinks he is. Season 1, Episode 38, The Test, puts Cheeseburger Backpack into context as a test that the Gems prepare to see if Steven is ready to go on missions. A test that he doesn't pass with flying colors. It stands out as a snapshot of his current development that can be contrasted with his later development in other episodes, including most notably The Test and series finale, Season 6, Episode 20, The Future. It starts with a slow, cute segment about Steven eagerly awaiting a package in the mail. We're introduced to Jamie, the mailman, voiced by Eugene Cordero, a small character here. He will later be the focus of Season 2, Episode 4, Love Letters, and generally has a background presence in the show. Steven gets his package and is proud to receive a novelty backpack shaped like a cheeseburger. It's definitely the kind of thing that would excite a kid, both for the silliness and the practicality. It feels like something that can genuinely belong to him, and that's important at his stage of development. Pearl describes their next mission, one that raises more questions about the setting. We still don't know what the Crystal Gems really are, what their history is, or who their people are. Now we're told that there are ruins of a gem civilization left to decay. One specific ruin is the Lunar Sea Spire, which the sea threatens to consume if they don't complete a ritual of placing a moon goddess idol on an altar by a specific time.
You should have seen the spire in its heyday. It was an oasis for gems on Earth.
The way she indicates the subject of Earth gives us the first hint that gems are not native to this planet. It's not an oasis for every gem in the world, it is specifically for those on Earth, as opposed to somewhere else. It's kind of a blink and you'll miss it detail, but it adds to the world building that will be elaborated on in later episodes. Though Pearl presents it as something that only she, Amethyst, and Garnet are qualified to perform, we'll learn in the test that they always intended Steven to come. This whole framing is just a facade designed to bait Steven into insisting on coming. It gives the episode a false sense of agency on Steven's part, where he seems to be growing into his own and badgering Pearl about it. Amethyst comes off as like the cool aunt for taking a side, but it's all just manipulation. I don't usually like stories that take this form, but I think that it works in this case because we don't learn the twist until way after we've stopped being emotionally invested in Steven's efforts to prove himself on this mission. Pearl gives Steven the job of carrying the idol, and he gets excited to use his new carrying device. He cleans out his closet and jams basically everything in the Cheeseburger Backpack, including a Mr. Queasy doll, voiced by Ian Jones-Quartey, that talks about having motion sickness when you shake it.
Oh, I got a medical condition.
I get that he's a general parody of children's toys, but I don't like Mr. Queasy. He just sounds unpleasant. Why would I want my escapist entertainment to remind me of being queasy? They go to the Sea Spire through the warp pad, which is how they easily reach specific locations all over the globe. It's a sci-fi element that brings to mind the transporter from Star Trek, but isn't quite the same. It's more about raising them through an energy stream that passes through hyperspace and is networked across a local system of pads, and there's a system of galaxy warp pads that link to other networks on other planets throughout the galaxy. The warp stream has a limited diameter, spanning only the length of the warp pad, and while the Crystal Gems can all use it together, any bigger groups would probably need to split up and make separate trips. As the warp pad engages, we have what I think is the only fat joke in the series. Steven's belly keeps the warp pad from working properly. He's too big to fit in the warp stream. Amethyst tells him to suck it in, he does so, and that works. On the one hand, it's good that fatness is portrayed somewhat neutrally, not depicting him as gross or anything like that, just showing his struggles with looking poised as a superhero. On the other hand, the framing problematizes his body, rather than depicting the warp pad as poorly designed, or the gems as bad at planning for not sending Garnet ahead first. Steven must conform to the restrictions, and it's a joke that he doesn't. I suspect it's derivative of more problematic fat jokes in The Incredibles, where Mr. Incredible can't properly interact with superhero technology until he loses weight and fits the standard model of a superhero. The warp pad joke isn't that bad, but it does bear the markers of this problematic framing. It's a good thing that they dropped the fat jokes after this. They arrive at the Sea Spire to find it crumbling, and generally looking like a death trap, only fit for Indiana Jones to have an adventure in. Pearl drops another tantalizing hint of world building by commenting that it wasn't in this condition 100 years ago, indicating that gems are considerably long-lived. She calls the relic Stephen's heritage, evoking the American immigrant experience. It's like Stephen is second generation and fully assimilated, trying to care about the things that his maternal figures consider important, but honestly not feeling it. It's something likely to resonate with a lot of children watching, even if their heritage is just about being Italian or Chinese or something, instead of wacky gem culture. When Stephen goofs off a little and doesn't seem to respect the danger of the scenario, Pearl suggests that they take Stephen back home. Stephen doesn't want to, and Garnet indicates that he can stay. In the context of the test, it's hard to know how much of that is legitimate. Would the gems always be willing to let him stay because they planned it out in advance and are just checking in? Does Pearl seriously have doubts, or is she using reverse psychology to motivate him? Are the gems really bouncing off of each other, or is it all just manipulation? Their first obstacle is a gap with magic that sucks you down into a dangerous whirlpool. The gems seemingly struggle to figure out what to do, and Stephen has the idea to tie a bunch of sweaters together to make a sling to keep himself from falling. He gets to experience victory after the gems doubt him, and they copy his example with Amethyst's whip, and congratulate him. It's unclear how much of that is real. Stephen seems to have surprised everyone with a backpack and the concept of taking a bunch of supplies that can be used creatively, but it's certainly possible Garnet foresaw the possibility of taking the backpack. Whether or not she communicated it to the others is unclear. It is true that Stephen gets to figure things out on his own. The second obstacle is an infestation of crystal shrimp, a gem pest with razor-sharp edges. They don't appear to be monsters in the sense of the centipedals with monster gems that must be collected. I would speculate that they're just another form of inorganic life that evolved on the gem homeworld and were accidentally brought to Earth with the gems, like rats hiding on board European ships brought to the Americas. They're hostile to human life, but only as a hazard, functioning as an obstacle, but not an enemy. Pearl suggests a strategy that the gems can use to fight them, but Stephen interrupts by throwing out his packed lunch to bait the shrimp away from the pathway. It's probable Garnet predicted he might do that, but it does grant him agency by allowing him to choose to follow or ignore Pearl's plan. When Pearl asks him how he knew their behavior patterns, he explains that he thought about what he would want to do if he were a shrimp, showing his strength based on his empathy. It subtly challenges restrictive traditional masculinity, even without a lot of pink. Garnet leads them to the next room, just as a wall bursts and floods the room with a river coursing across their path and careening off the side of the building. Yeah, she definitely planned that. The gems look to Stephen for a solution and cheer him on as he pulls out an inflatable raft. It seems great! He inflates it, lays it on the water, and it careens off the side. Oh yeah, the current. Stephen having failed, Garnet knocks down a pillar to use as a bridge. This seems organic in the plot, but in retrospect, it points at the gems having solutions in mind. If Stephen hadn't improvised a sling, Amethyst probably would have taken out her whip anyway, and Pearl certainly had a plan in mind for the shrimp.
They can't all be winners.
This is the episode's theme. Sometimes you just fail, and that can be okay. Provided that you have the right support structure. The gems can assist him when he fails, and the children at home can depend on their parents when things that they try similarly fail. It's a part of growing up. It's also similar to the repeated line in the last episode.
If every pork chop were perfect, we wouldn't have hot dogs.
They reach the roof, where it's finally Stephen's time to shine. His one job was to carry the statue and place it on the pedestal. However, he searches through his backpack and realizes to his horror that he left it at home while he was packing everything else. The gems react in horror, and we really get the sense of them caring so much about the Sea Spire and their heritage, even though they don't. Yeah, if you think about it, this is not how any of them would act. Garnet is way too stoic to do that open-mouthed gasp of horror. Amethyst is too standoffish, not the type to rely on authority, to clutch at Pearl's arm like that. And Pearl is not the type to assume authority in a crisis. She'd be clutching at Garnet's arm. It's all a mix of overacting, or in Pearl's case, underacting.
What?
For a moment, we really care about Steven's tension when he messes up, which promotes empathy in the viewer, even if it is unpleasant to deal with. He suggests a solution, to substitute Mr. Queasy.
Could that work?
I love Garnet's ambivalence. She's supposed to be this ultra-perceptive seer, and even she's confused. They try it. It seems like it might work, but it doesn't. The Sea Spire is destroyed, but the raft pops up and helps them in the end. Ah well, they can't all be winners. Amethyst notes that he had 50% success, which, in retrospect, sounds like a grade for his assignment. That this comes across as a decent grade also seems like the first of multiple jabs at the American education system in the series.
I've never been to this, how do you say, school?
In school, a 50% would be an F. In the GEM's homeschooling, it's halfway to full success, as is done in some European systems.
Right here at Little Homeschool.
Pearl assures him that it's okay, because the Sea Spire was already on its way out. If you think about it, the fact that she hadn't visited it for 100 years, and didn't try to maintain it, points at her not caring quite as much about it as she initially projected to Steven. She and Amethyst cheer him on for a moment, before Garnet reminds them that they have to paddle for 3 hours. A little up, a little down. This is an entertaining episode with a decent theme and intriguing world building, yet it mostly functions as a foundational experience to showcase Steven's current difficulty fitting into the role of superhero. The Moon Goddess statue will reappear in the test, and we'll compare his development then to his current abilities in Cheeseburger Backpack. By the time of the movie, Steven seemingly embraces his failure as a learning experience, and displays the statue on his shelf as a souvenir of this adventure, where it stays for the rest of the series. The Moon Goddess statue is a tantalizing hint of the gem religion. We don't see much of it in the show, past the fact that the crystal gems live in a temple of some kind. As they're not native to planet Earth, it's probable that the moon worship is not exclusive to our moon. For the gems to build the Sea Spire means that they do care about our moon, though. Our moon will be featured in a few episodes as host to an overlook facility, probably because of its utility in looking over the Earth. It may also have some underlying religious significance. Steven will always show excitement over the moon, and it's possible he inherited something of Rose's appreciation of it. Or maybe it's all about the base and the worship of the diamonds. The fact that the statue's gem resembles White Diamond's gem might indicate that the Moon Goddess is a mythologization of her as the ruler of gem kind. But there's just no way of knowing. It's all just fan speculation. Cheeseburger Backpack is enjoyable as a standalone episode, but gains new meaning when one watches the whole series and comes back to watch it again. On the rewatch, you can see how the gems put together the mission as a test, and how they always had Steven's back. It fits with the overall theme of the world gaining complexity when you grow up, and what at first seems simple, truly having other layers. Next time, Steven explores the depths of the temple and completely ignores its intrigue as he tries to gather the gems for breakfast.